Cam Underwood joining us from State of the U, looking back at ACC Media Days in terms of Miami Slice and how that projects toward August camp and game number 1. The Coastal Division has to be won. You're probably sick of hearing that Miami has yet to win the Coastal. That seems inconceivable considering a few of the other programs that have won it, i.e. Duke in particular and Georgia Tech to a lesser extent. But hey, in my book, they're going to be the favorite. They should win it. They have the personnel. They've got the best roster. That doesn't always translate to winning a division or a championship, but it's got to start with the Coastal. So this program has big objectives, but it's got to start with the division championship.
Wow, Miami hasn't won the Coastal Division ever. This is groundbreaking news. This is something I had not heard of before. This is crazy. I wish you would tell me more. And obviously that's sarcasm. But yeah, that's where everything starts, is winning the Coastal Division. You have to win games, and you have to put those games together and win, beat those teams who are on the schedule. And that's the first step to any set of goals that you're going to have. If you're talking about being conference champion or in the playoff or national championship and everything like that, you have to win your division of your conference. And that's just a fact of the matter insofar as Miami. So that is obviously the first step. That is something that, when Al Golden was the coach, it was disingenuous the way that he said, I want to win the Coastal and things like that. He basically, it was like he was cutting off his nose to spite his face. It's like, I want to win the Coastal, and that's the key to everything, but I'm not going to get excited about any game in that process. There's no game that, matters more. So like whatever Cincinnati, and Cincinnati's not in the ACC, but a good Miami team should beat Cincinnati in a season where they're building momentum to win that division. And it was just this disconnect with Al Golden. But with Mark Richt, he's a very good coach. He has a history of success, and it rings true when he says this is the first step towards our path of success. The whole, program is bought into that. All the players, see that and everything. And they know that this is where you really have to start. So, Miami does have the best roster of any team in the Coastal Division. It's not relatively close, in my estimation. Their talent, is equal to like a Louisville. I'm not going to say it's exactly the same because, you have Lamar Jackson over at Louisville, but there's not much of a difference overall when you're talking about that roster of that program. So it stands to reason that if you have a roster that's as good as, if not better than Louisville, and no one else on the side of our division has that kind of talent, we should win. I saw a couple of journalists who went to ACC kickoff, namely David Hale of ESPN. He wrote up a couple notes, and he's just like, the media is looking for reasons not to pick Miami to win the Coastal. Like, they have to convince themselves to pick somebody else. It's like, okay, I know that Miami has the best coaching staff, which was upgraded across the board. And Matt Porter of Palm Beach Post was asked about that. What was the biggest thing, transition from last staff to this staff? He said there's across the board upgrades in the coaching, like literally position by position, every single one, boom. So that matters. So you have a better coaching staff than you've ever had. One of the best, if not the best, on that side of the division. You have the most talent. You have the best roster. You have great returning players. You have a very advantageous schedule. All the signs point to Miami winning the Coastal if we do what we need to do. And like I was talking about with David Hale, people are trying to look at Miami as though this is still Al Golden's Miami and looking for reasons not to go with logic and say, if you have the best coaching and you have the best roster, you should win. There's media members who are looking and trying to say, yeah, but what's the fatal flaw? What's the, mental disconnect? What is the issue with them? Because Miami has not been good. And like we've talked about, we've not been relevant for winning in a decade like this. So everybody is still looking for that reason not to pick Miami. But just like David Hale presupposes, Miami should win the Coastal. Best coaching, best players, great schedule. That's what should happen. So that's really what I'm looking for this year, honestly. And, hopefully the team finds a way to make that happen.
Well, if you look across college football, I'm guessing by the end of any season that 3/4 of the champions of divisions and conferences are pretty much chalk. And then it's the other 20 or 25% that are slight surprises. no, we're not going to have Wake Forest win the ACC, but are slight surprises. So I think a lot of media members, especially when they're speaking on behalf of themselves and their names on the blog or whatever the medium, want to be able to say, hey, I picked Duke back in August, or I picked West Virginia to win the Big 12, or whatever the case. That's an odd pick, but comes through. And then if it doesn't come through, they of course ignore it, and so some media members just try to shake things up and not make the logical choice, but try to make the pick that's going to come through and make them look good.